Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight's meeting. We are going to get started. So thank you again for joining the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's first construction phase public information meeting for the Springfield X intersection reconstruction project, which is the reconstruction of the intersection of Sumner Avenue, Dickinson Street, and Belmont Avenue in the Forest Park neighborhood of Springfield. My name is Billy Parent. I'm the Public Involvement Manager for the project as it enters construction. I work for a firm, HNTB, that is supporting MassDOT through construction. I'll start by going over a few housekeeping items for the meeting, introducing the speakers and agenda for tonight's presentation, and the entities involved in the project and their roles. If you have not already, we would encourage you to please sign in at the front attendance table. And we have copies of comment cards, contact us flyers, and the presentation that are available tonight. For the comment cards, if you could please leave any written comments at the front desk upon exiting, that would be great. We also offer Spanish and Vietnamese interpretation tonight. Peter is providing Vietnamese interpretation, and Ulissa will be providing Spanish interpretation. My colleague Patrick Marvin, who is at the front door, it will be in the audience, and he can help connect you with all of those resources. So starting off with a few housekeeping items, we would like to thank Focus Springfield for attending and recording the meeting tonight. This meeting is being recorded. MassDOT may choose to retain and distribute the video, images, and audio from the meeting. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation with ample opportunity for questions and comments. We very much appreciate, again, your attendance and participation tonight, so thank you. We will also take a moment to read MassDOT's policy on diversity and civil rights. All MassDOT activities, including public meetings, are free of discrimination. MassDOT complies with all federal and state civil rights requirements, preventing discrimination based on sex, race, color, ancestry, national origin, limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, and veteran status. We welcome the diversity from across our entire service area. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit www.mass.gov/non-discrimination in transportation program to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. We would also like to touch on some of the public outreach and notifications for this public meeting. So the notice for this meeting was published in English and Spanish in the Springfield Reminder, the Springfield Republican, and in the El Pueblo Latino. Thank you to all of those outlets for helping to promote the meeting. In addition, thank you to MassDOT Communications and to the City of Springfield for their outreach efforts. And thank you to Forest Park Middle School and the school district for providing the venue and all of the planning and coordination. So now we will get into the meeting agenda. I will start by giving a brief introduction of the project team and project partners. Chris Signoli, the City of Springfield Department of Public Works Director, and Stephen Savario with Fuss & O'Neill, the city's lead design consultant with the project, will give background on the project design and development as well as the project goals. Todd Moylan with MassDOT will provide an update on the construction project schedule, cost, and early construction activity that is underway. Then I will come back to cover our public involvement plan and how to best stay connected with the project. As I had started to mention, we have a number of project team members from MassDOT and the City of Springfield and the consultant support teams who are in attendance and who will be giving parts of the presentation. With MassDOT Highway District 2, which is located in Hampton, Hampshire, and Franklin counties, Patricia Leavenworth is the District 2 Highway Director. John Donahue is the district construction engineer. Matt Minahan is the district operations engineer. Steve Young is the program coordinator for the district, and Todd Moylan and Jeffrey Hendricks support and oversee construction operations. Dan Rassicott is the legislative representative, helping with much of the outreach and communication with elected officials. Chris Signoli, as I mentioned, is the Department of Public Works Director for the City of Springfield. Andrew Carr is the city engineer, and Luca Mineo is a civil engineer for the city. Stephen Savaria is the representative for the design consultant, Fuss & O'Neill. My colleague Patrick Marvin and I both work for HNTB, and we are supporting MassDOT for public involvement for the construction phase of the project. Finally, for project introductions, this slide explains the different entities involved in the construction of the project and their specific role. The City of Springfield and their design consultant, Fuss & O'Neill, have advanced the design of the project over almost the past decade. They oversee all design and project development related items. MassDOT has become involved with the project to oversee and administer construction. So as will be explained further in the next few slides, MassDOT advertised a request for proposals and has an executed agreement with a general contractor, which is Baltazar Contractors Incorporated. Baltazar will be the primary firm with assistance from subcontractors that will perform the construction. HNTB, we are also an engineering firm with a public involvement practice, and as I mentioned, that's where Patrick and I are a part of the project partners. And with that, I will now hand it over to Chris Signoli to cover the project background.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. As was mentioned by Bill, HNTB is the outreach consultant for this project, and additional information, we will probably be having public hearings throughout the course of this project as we move forward over the years. For those of you who may have attended our presentation at the end of March, when MassDOT did Route 91 over in 2016, 17, and 18, we had a consultant for that, and we had probably 4, 5, 6 presentations on the status of the project. So as we move forward, there's going to be, this isn't the final time we're ever going to get together, and there will be discussions, and if people haven't seen it, for you to stay informed of the project as we move on. The scope of the project, as most of you are aware from all of our previous discussions, Sumner Avenue from just west of the entrance to Forest Park, all the way on Sumner Avenue to just about Daytona Street. On Belmont Avenue, we will be having work from, Burlington to just past Ormond Street. Ormond Street is the street behind CVS. Dickinson Street from Burlington Street to just past Cliffwood, and Cliffwood Street on the backside of the buildings on Sumner Avenue. Also, we will be working on Ormond Street as well. This project has been on our plate in the city for a long time. We started this in late 2013. So we're in year 12, or it's at least for me, it's year 12, in the study phase and presentations and finally getting to construction. Projects of this size take a lot of time, and the outline of the schedule that you are seeing shows a lot of the meetings we've had and a lot of the presentations and milestones that we've reached. One of our first meetings was back in 2015 when we were talking about the planning study, all the way through 16, 17, 18 until we got to 21, and we had information with regard to historical. We had MIPA filings where we've had presentations last year, and we are finally at the point now where construction can start, and as you are aware, it has started over the previous few months. I'm just going to leave this up for 1 second. This is just a nice, pretty picture of the middle of the X project. There is no roundabout. I have to say that because I've been getting emails, social media posts, that people are saying we're turning into the East Longmeadow town center. We are not. We never were. And I get a little confused sometimes as to where some of this information comes from. But so when you leave here and you run into somebody, smack them with that information, please. Because everybody wants to know, hey, you got to take buildings now. You're going to do this. When are you tearing down the X-Pub? Was a question that I received. There is no roundabout. on Sumner Avenue for this project. So, as we've talked about in the past, the main reason why we are doing this project, number one, the corridor is antiquated. There are no pedestrian, oh, thank you, Bill. Forgot to hit that. Pedestrian support in the corridor is bad at best, severely antiquated. There are no bicycle accommodations. Crosswalks are not up to standards. Traffic numbers along the corridor have probably doubled, tripled in the past 20 years. For those of us who live in the neighborhood, knowing what Sumner Avenue looks like in the morning and in the afternoon, we know that there's a lot of traffic. And there's a lot of people in their car doing things that they shouldn't be doing simply because they're trying to get through the corridor quickly. So this project is really, congestion a little bit from a vehicular standpoint, but really adding in all of the accommodations that we need to make this project a complete streets project with updated pedestrian crossings, new traffic signals, new ped phases, bike lanes, cycle tracks for people to be able to get through the corridor. And we are obviously making some changes to the layout. One of the other problems that, for somebody who's lived in the area my whole life, we're going to talk a couple details, but for people who are traveling westbound on Sumner Avenue who want to get to that side of, this side of Forest Park, Dickinson Street, everybody's cutting through neighborhoods. Daytona Street, all of the side streets off of Commonwealth. There will be a turning lane on Sumner Avenue to get onto Dickinson Street. So one of our hopes is as well is there's going to be less traffic on some of these side streets that we have to deal with and the residents have to deal with. So getting rid of a lot of cut-through traffic is a big goal on this project. And as we've talked about, the pedestrian phases and facilities, and the inadequate bike accommodations really need to be brought up to speed on this project. There are some crosswalks out there that do not have any ped phase at all. And in some of them, people crossing the street, as you are aware, for, say, Dunkin' Donuts going over towards where X-Pub is, that's a long walk. And the phase is just, doesn't accommodate that. And I watch all the time, and people are taking right turns when they shouldn't on red lights, and people are crossing, especially during school periods. So this is going to address a lot of that. And the last item on there, the signal equipment. The signal equipment probably is from the early 80s at best. And we've had a lot of problems with the traffic signals over the years, just from a maintenance standpoint. Water in a lot of the conduits. Some of the conduits are direct buried, not in conduits. So trying to fix some of these is a little difficult. The project overview and the improvements that we're proposing, in general, for people who are going to be, when the project is complete, traversing up and down Sumner Avenue, it's going to be relatively the same. You're going to have your 2 lanes. You're going to be moving through Sumner Avenue. There's going to be some relocation of traffic signals, but the drive-through on Sumner Avenue, in the end, is going to be very, very similar. Dickinson Street is going to be very, very similar. Our major changes are going to be on Belmont, and we'll talk about that. But we are installing all new traffic signals on the project. All locations are going to have pedestrian accommodations. As most of you know, people walk across the street in the X wherever they want to. So, and one of the main areas, for example, is up at CVS, Santander, Benson's Bagels. There's a lot of people crossing the street. There's a bus stop there. So that's not surprising. So changes are going to be made in that location as well. Bicycle lanes, depending upon where you are on the project, they are either going to be off-road or on-road. They move back and forth a little bit based upon the geometry and land out there. All of the pedestrian, everything that we're doing out there, there's going to be new pedestrian sidewalks, walkways, curb ramps, throughout the entire project. From a construction standpoint, you know, you may see something get fixed today and wonder why they don't do the other thing across from it. Well, a lot of the work that's going on today is a lot of utility work, so there's little work that's going on. I received a call on that last week. Hey, they're working at this ramp. Are they going to fix the other one? Yes, they will. You know, it's going to be a timing standpoint. Bus stops, big improvements to all the bus stops, a few little relocations for them as well, working through with the PVTA. And we're going to be creating some plazas, and there's going to be some a lot of lighting put out there, pedestrian scale lighting in some of these plazas, furnishes, landscaping throughout the entire project. As I mentioned for vehicular traffic, Sumner Avenue is going to be reconfigured, but in driving through, you're going to have your through 2 lanes. The second item that says remove left turn restriction on Dickinson Street, I'm going to talk about 2 items with that. Technically, when you are coming from the south up Dickinson into the X, it says no left turn. Everybody does it, but it says no left turn. That restriction is going to be taken away, and actually, in the future, you're going to have a left turn lane with your own signal. As I mentioned before, when you are on Sumner Avenue going westbound and you approach the X, there will be a left-hand turn to get onto Dickinson Street where the Dunkin' Donuts pizza shop and to be able to go down Dickinson Street towards back of Forest Park and eventually to Long Meadow. So again, there's not going to be the need to cut through all those side streets. And for those of you who know, when you're driving in that direction, to do that now, you either cut through or you sit in traffic at Cliffwood waiting to take that left forever, which is what I just did. Ormond Street. Ormond Street is going to turn into one-way northbound. For those of you who don't know, Ormond Street is the street behind the X. I live off of Dwight Road, so when I'm coming to the X in the future, when it is done, when you come down Belmont Avenue and you want to traverse the X, you will take a right and go behind CVS. You come out at that intersection, which a lot of us do now, and it's a little bit of a pain to get out, there's going to be a traffic signal there. So entry into Santander, Benson's Bagels, Forest Park Liquors, the dental there is going to be controlled to be able to get in and out a lot easier. A lot of the driveways are still going to be there, but getting in and out of there with a traffic signal is going to make life better. I come in and out of Santander, and you're looking at what's going up and down Sumner, what's coming out of Ormond, who's coming out of Benson's Bagels taking a right, and who's coming out of the gas station with the Dunkin' Donuts taking a left. So this is going to make that a lot better. The Belmont Avenue, as we've talked about before, when you are coming out of the X, is basically going to be one way out of the X in both directions. If you are on Belmont Avenue coming from downtown, say, in the future, what we would have you do is when you come to the intersection here at Oakland Street, you would take a right, come to the light here, take a left onto Sumner. If you continue to go through when you get to Burlington Street, which is right where the old Hafey's Funeral Home is, and the restaurant, Mojitos, you can take a left onto Burlington, but that's not really what we want people to do because it'll then be one way out at that point. So the ends of Belmont are going to be changing. Cliffwood Street is going to change as well. There's Cliffwood, Lenox to go up and down. Those two are going to flop directions. And based upon the traffic layout, if you are, as we mentioned before, if you are coming up Dickinson Street, what a lot of people, obviously they come into the X and take the left, which is illegal, but a lot of people do go down Cliffwood Street, come out at the light at Lenox and take a left because there's a traffic signal there. Because you're going to have your left-hand turn lane, there's not going to be a need to really do that. So in switching those two is also going to stop people from cutting through all of the parking lots. which they do now and have done for years and years and years. So, and when you are coming into the X from the west, you still will have that lane to take a right onto Belmont Ave, which you can, and to Dickinson. And we won't have 3 lights in succession as we do now. They're going to be spread out, one at Ormond Street, one back at Cliffwood, which will basically be at the entrance to Taco Bell. So that's going to solve 2 problems there. Number one, in and out of the side streets, in and out of Taco Bell, and spread that intersection out. Right now, not to get too technical, but the intersection is a 3-phase signal that allows traffic on Sumner Avenue, then Dickinson, then Belmont, and as you people know, I've been doing it my whole life, it's long. And if you know, and that's why people run the red lights all the time. So in stretching these things out, the timings become different, be able to progress people through the intersection a lot better. From a multimodal standpoint, I mentioned the traffic light that will be going in at Cliffwood and Taco Bell. That intersection, full pedestrian phases, buttons, crosswalks for people to be able to get across Sumner Avenue at that point. There is also going to be a crosswalk just west of the entrance to Forest Park. Obviously, the intersection here at Oakland Street, the intersection is going to be redone. There's a traffic signal. But for people coming from the opposite direction, and as we know, people cross here at Oakland and go into the park, but if you're coming from the opposite direction and you're on this side of Sumner, there really isn't any safe way to get to Forest Park other than Forest Park Avenue, which is iffy at sometimes. Anyways, so there will be a protected crossing just, when I say just east, we're talking 10, 15 feet from the driveway there as well. Throughout the whole project, a lot more crosswalks throughout there for people to be able to get back and forth. Students, obviously we have a lot of students in the area for all the schools, so those changes are going to really enhance the way things for people, especially from a pedestrian standpoint, can get back and forth. On Sumner Avenue, at Belmont Avenue, as we mentioned, we're going to be doing some changes there with the direction of traffic. We're going to be creating some plazas, and one of them would be, I'm going to say kind of in front of In Motion at the corner there, and on the opposite corner, kind of in front of Dunkin' Donuts, and the island where when you come out of Belmont now, there's a big island there. So there's going to be kind of a pedestrian plaza, and rather than just having it grass or just landscape, it's going to be a plaza. There's going to be pavers, there's going to be seating areas, there's going to be new vegetation, there's going to be lighting. So it's going to be a little bit more than just a open space that's going to be concrete. So it's going to look a lot better. The transit services are going to be significantly enhanced. Their new bus stops, there will be just west of just west of Dickinson, going westbound, and on eastbound, obviously the one at Ormond, and then there's going to be others before that as well. So much more enhancements for the bus service. And on Sumner Avenue, as I mentioned before, full bike lanes. Portions of it are going to be off-road, so the sidewalk in certain areas are going to be significantly wider. And then at a certain point, because of geometry and buildings, it's going to traverse back onto the road and be a bike lane in the road within the project. So the bike accommodations, the pedestrian accommodations, and especially the vehicle accommodations, the goal of the whole project is to be able to have those, work in harmony with each other, and everybody who's traveling through there we want to have everybody be a lot safer. I receive, I'm going to use the word complaints about our traffic signals out there, and there's only so much that we can do with it based upon timing and issues that we have just with the age of the equipment out there. So personally, I am really looking forward to getting that done. The last thing for me to speak about is the MEPA process. Um, three, 3/4 of the way, maybe even more through this project, um, the Federal Highway Administration put new rules out, as they do all the time, and one of them has to do with environmental. And the word environmental is not just, we're not just talking about hazardous material. We are talking about trees, we are talking about drainage, we are talking about all sorts of things. The project was, we were after 75%, I believe, and all of a sudden they made us stop the project, and we had to do what's called a MEPA review. An environmental document had to be created that analyzed everything environmentally on this project. We had a meeting late 23, I think it was, or in 24, I'm losing track, that presented the findings of that to the public. We had it over at the Shea Building a while back. And the big trigger on this project was the amount of trees that were being removed. It's one of the triggers, and it's not just this project, every project. So if you're cutting down X amount of trees, it triggers the study, it triggers the analysis, and not just for that item, it triggers it for the whole project. So as the city, whenever we're working on projects like this, we have to be very cognizant of what we're impacting so as not to get to a certain point in time and have to stop and do a costly, but B, very detailed and time-consuming report. So we're trying to make sure how we figure that out. As you know, out there now, a lot of the comments we've received are, what's all that wood that's on those trees? It's tree protection. It's nothing crazy. It's just basically to protect the trees. And so when the contractors are out there, they're not going to damage the trees. I think, I may be wrong on a couple of them, but the trees that needed to be cut down have been cut down. And we're going to be planting, as part of the project, an additional 118 trees throughout the project. And so that really ends up yielding 57 more trees. Now, some of the comments are, well, those trees take a while to grow. Yeah, they do. But having them now, in 5 years, 10 years, it will look a lot better. Some of us may not be around, but you got to start somewhere. And because I know some of the comments we had were, why can't you just put in bigger trees? Well, it's not as easy as just doing that. So the trees that are going in, as we move forward with everybody's lives, our kids, our grandkids, they're going to be able to see this project. And a lot of the changes that have happened came from people like yourselves. The first meeting that we had back in 2014 or 15 were concept stuff. So I'm going to say that 99% of the things that are in this project are things either people have asked for, you've asked us to change, you've asked us to modify, and we've done that throughout the entire project. So I thank you for everything that you've done for us over the years. It's been a long project. I'm not to speak for my friends at DOT, it will be a long construction. It is a complicated construction, and hopefully in the end, it will be worth it for all of us. So at this point, I'll turn it back to MassDOT for the remainder of the presentation.
Hi. Hello. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody for coming. My name's Todd Boylan. I'm the project area engineer for MassDOT District 2 construction section. My team is responsible for overseeing the daily construction activities on the project, ensuring that every phase is executed in accordance with the contract plans and documents, as well as adhering to the MassDOT and SWSC specifications and standards. Our goal on this project, as is with every project we undertake, is to deliver a high-quality finished product on schedule and within budget. We are committed to efficiency, transparency, and excellence in construction. So this slide deals with the project funding. As Billy stated earlier, the contract was awarded to Baltazar Contractors of Ludlow in the amount of $22.7 million. The funding also includes an additional 10% for contingencies, as well as additional funding for police traffic details, engineering, etc. The project total funding is in the amount of $27.5 million. The project is funded primarily through Federal Highway Administration, but includes some funding from the City of Springfield, as well as the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission for lighting, water, and sewer upgrades. This slide depicts the contractor's project schedule. It's an overview. As many of you know, if you live here or you commute through here, the project's been underway for a couple of months. Our current completion date is October 23rd of 2030. So it's a long duration project that's be taking place over the next 6 construction seasons. Typically our seasons are March to December. The initial 2 seasons of the contract will consist largely of underground utility relocations and upgrades, which include third-party utility companies such as Verizon and Eversource. The general contractor will be doing primarily drainage work, which is currently underway, and will be for the remainder of 25 into early 26. Year 2, which is 2026, the general contractor will be installing a new water main in phases throughout the project. Temporary water mains will be installed to minimize water service disruptions to homeowners and businesses. The water main work is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2026 season, late fall. And time permitting, we may begin excavation for road widenings on Sumner Ave. Year 3, which is 2027, road widenings and full depth reconstruction will be performed throughout the project during the entire season. This work consists of excavation and paving, along with granite curbing and cement concrete sidewalks and driveways. Also occurring will be the installation of new highway lighting. Year 4, 2028, we will continue the excavation and paving along with cement concrete road widenings, full depth reconstruction and paving to perform throughout the project during the entire season. And new traffic signalization will begin to be installed. Year 5, 2029, we will complete the full depth excavation and road widenings. Sidewalks and driveways will be completed, and work will begin on the more decorative elements of the project, specifically the plazas, which Chris showed you earlier, at what now is the X intersection. These areas will have decorative items such as cement concrete pavers, raised granite walls for seating, planters, catenary lighting, benches, and new trash receptacles. Also set will be landscaping work such as loam and seeding, tree and shrub plantings. In year 6, the final year of the project, will be milling and paving. The final touches of the project, we putting on the surface course paving, as well as line striping and pavement markings, and as well as the final loam and seeding. So early construction activity, again, if you live here, you've seen it. Physical work is underway on the project. Currently, the utility companies, Comcast, has been relocating and updating their underground utilities, as has the gas company with fiber optic lines, communication lines, and electric. The general contractor and subcontractors have completed moving trees, which are to be replaced, as well as protecting the existing trees. This work will facilitate the underground drainage and water main replacements discussed earlier. Requirements during construction, per the contract, requires that the general contractor maintain pedestrian, bicycle, vehicle, bus, and delivery during all stages. They are required to coordinate with abutters during the reconstruction of driveways and sidewalks to the greatest extent possible, communicate with businesses, residents, and stakeholder groups in advance and during construction. Billy will be updating this in the coming slides. Dust control measures and sweet sweeping will be done on a daily basis as needed. And with that, I'll pass it back to Billy.
Thanks, Todd. So I will now go over our approach to public involvement, abutter coordination, and review the different methods by which you can stay connected and informed as the project moves forward. So public involvement and minimizing impacts during construction are top priorities for the project team, and we're committed to collaborating with the City of Springfield throughout the duration of construction. At the outset of the project, we've developed a public involvement plan that outlines our activities to keep various stakeholders apprised of project activities. One of the first items is that we've worked with the city to ensure that we have a robust stakeholder list and that we are reaching all the individuals, organizations, and groups that are involved with the project. We also have an anticipated schedule for public meetings, which Chris alluded to earlier, which we are expecting to host biannually or as needed as the project progresses, both in person, such as this meeting, and with the potential for virtual meetings as the project advances. We will be offering translated material and interpretation services as needed and by request. Additionally, our plan outlines how we coordinate and notify elected officials through legislative briefings, individual and targeted outreach to abutters and community stakeholders, media outreach and engagement, notifications to first responders, any coordination needed with adjacent projects so that we're minimizing impacts and well coordinated with any adjacent construction that's happening, and coordinating with the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority for the transit stops that are in the project limits. We have a number of different ways for you to stay connected and informed about project activities. We have a dedicated project hotline available 24/7 to reach the project team. That will connect you either to a person or to a voicemail that is available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. We have a dedicated project email address, which is MassDOT SpringfieldX at dot.state.ma.us, where you can reach the project team. We monitor and respond to that email account regularly, and all of that information is contained on a handout at the front table that many of you have as well. A few more notes on this slide. So we also send MassDOT project updates or stakeholder email updates on a regular basis to provide information about construction activity and notifications about public meetings such as this. We have a dedicated website where project information will be updated as work advances, and information such as the PowerPoint and recording from tonight's presentation will be made available on that website as well. The QR codes from left to right on the screen include the project website, and the QR code on the right side of the screen will connect you to the subscription portal so that you can sign up to receive project email updates. And with that, that concludes the presentation portion of tonight's meeting. So thank you all again for attending. We'll now move into the question and answer section.
Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Springfield City Councilor Victor Davila. My apologies. I was outside, the door was locked. It took me a little while to get here. But I'm here. So I'm the Victor Davila. I'm the City Councilor for Ward 6, Forest Park. I remember when we first started having these meetings when I was the president of this beautiful association, the Forest Park Civic Association. I remember having Chris here a couple of times, right, Chris? And we've been doing this for a while. And I do believe that this is a need. This is not a want. This is a project that it's critical for safety. Now, I also know that there's many residents that still have concerns. We don't want to lose the money. The money has to be used, The safety has to be improved. We know it's no secret. You go to the X, you're taking your life in your own hands. And so that needs to be corrected. I urge you, from what you can, listen to the concerns that I'm sure you're going to be hearing today, and try to incorporate them into the plan. Because this is just not a street. This is our neighborhood. And I urge you to please listen to those concerns, take them seriously, which I'm sure you guys will, and incorporate them accordingly when feasible into the final master plan. With that, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay, with that. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Beta Bolin, B-O-L-E-N. I'm president of the Forest Park Civic Association, and I just had a question, a clarifying question. In terms of what's happening at Belmont, what I understood you to say is that going south on Belmont, one will no longer go down towards Sumner Avenue, but will turn onto Oakland Street and turn there. My concern there is it's a school right there, that block. How are you going to be mitigating for that increased volume right in front of the school?
There are going to be, is this on? Yep. There are going to be improvements on Oakland Street as well to be able to accommodate the traffic. And number two, at the intersection of Sumner and Oakland, there will be 2 lanes for you to take a left or take a right. Right now, people kind of do it, but there will be 2 dedicated lanes there for the traffic to be able to make those turns. And that signal right now is kind of the first bottleneck that you run into. So we do know that there's going to be a significant amount of traffic going past here. So the improvements that we're proposing on Belmont should address that.
My question is, do you live near Boston? Do you live near Boston? Do you live near Boston? Okay. In Boston, above the streets, signs and the lights, they have big, like, signs for the streets. I know because I go over there for the hospital. And it's like the street signs you need to see them. Just a little one over on the side, if somebody's looking for their street, they don't find it. And at big intersections like Boston Road and Parker, you would think that you would have big signs across saying Parker or Boston Road or something like that, because it's like you see it all over Boston, but you don't see it anywhere else. And another thing, I hate to say it, but the lighting at the X. The lighting is terrible. And Chris, you have mentioned nothing about the lighting. The whole time I sat there, no lighting. And you know something? When it's wintertime, it's darker early. So you need that lighting. Because a lot of people do cross there, like you said.
Absolutely. All of the lighting along the corridor is going to be improved. We have been having discussions / arguments with regard to the lighting. The lighting that is going in is going to be not the decorative lights that are out there. One of the complaints and one of the issues that we have with the decorative lights is they do not put out the required lighting. They are too small as far as height, they're too short, and getting light across a 4-lane roadway is not going to do it. The lighting that's going to be put in is going to be black. As part of the project, we're doing bases and conduits. With Eversource, as we move through the project, new lighting will be put in. They are going to be black, painted black instead of just stainless steel, but black Cobra headlights that are going to be all LEDs and put out a lot more lighting. One of the comments that we had when we were talking about some of the lightings and we were talking about the decorative lighting is downtown. All along Main Street, all those decorative lights there, the same type of lighting that we have here, just do not put out the required lighting. So every light in downtown has now had a spotlight put on it. Some people have said to me, hey, that lighting downtown looks good. Well, yeah, we've had to add in LED spotlights. So if you walk down Red Rose area or in front of Mass Mutual Center or even farther down, you're going to all of a sudden say, hey, it is light because we've added those. And we did not want to get to that point on this. We wanted to make sure that the lighting was addressed, number one. So as part of the project, we're doing bases, conduits, and throughout the project, Eversource will be coming back in and putting in the lights. For everybody here, one of the major issue with decorative lights, the decorative lights that are out in this area now, those lights do not exist anymore. There are no parts, there are no repairs. So when we've had the opportunity, we basically have been to put something up. If we do, when I say we, Eversource is looking at 24 months for having something manufactured. You can't wait 24 months. So I know they don't have a great track record in some cases of getting some of those fixed. So what we've done in a lot of cases is request that they put out the black Cobra heads now just to get lighting out there. But from a decorative standpoint, those lights do not exist, can't find parts, cannot be retrofitted to LEDs, and all of the decoratives that are being proposed, Eversource does have a handful, are not LEDs. So we are looking at less efficiency, poorer lighting. So all of to just address the additional question, all new lighting along the entire corridor of the project.
Thanks, Chris. Just a reminder to please state your name before asking a question. Thank you. Sir.
My name is Harold Albee. Harold is common spelling. Albee is, I'll spell it phonetically, Alpha, Lima, Bravo, Echo, Echo. Eventually, as you're doing the projects here, you're going to have to, when they do the water mains and any of the underground utilities, they're going to have to close off an intersection, say from any one of these that cut off Dickinson, cut off Belmont, tore it up, you're 6, 10 feet underground. How are you going to handle the traffic flow and detours for first responders?
What they should be doing is they'll be doing it in phases. So if they're crossing a road, we're required by contract to keep one lane of traffic open in each direction. Now, in some of the side streets, if there is a detour or something that has to be put in place, first of all, it has to get approved by the city. And then we also need to notify first responders of any closings. But to address your question on the trenching, typically what they'll do is they'll put steel plates. So they might dig halfway, take a lane, put a steel plate, shift traffic. So the major throughways through the project, you won't see road closures. What you will see is one lane in each direction, which is going to restrict traffic. And our contracts, we have typically with our contractors what they call the 12-minute rule, where they're allowed to stop traffic for 12 minutes. And we strictly enforce that on our projects. So I don't think you would see the kind of closures that you're thinking of. And the trenches, you know, they'll be backfilled daily. If they can't be backfilled, they'll be plated, bolted down, you know, asphalt put around the plates. I'm sure you've seen the gas work similar to that. So, you know, some of it is deeper than the utility companies. But we're typically not beyond maybe 6 feet for a water main. So there's not like really intrusive, you know, 20-foot deep sewer cuts or anything on this project. So I hope that answers your question.
Hi, my name is Eva Schocken. It's Schocken. My concern is about the existing trees. I know that you put some wood barriers up around them. I don't think they're sufficient. Some of them have been knocked over already. They're very flimsy wood. I don't know how they're attached, but I've seen some that are totally on the ground. The other thing is they don't go out far enough, so I've already seen some like the giant concrete pipes been on the roots system, so they're under the overhang of the trees. And I was wondering if there's a way to A, do a better protection of the trees, and B, prevent the contractors from storing those heavy equipments near the trees.
Okay, that's the tree protection you see there is like Chris said. I mean, that's basically just to keep the equipment from hitting the trees.
Some of them are falling down already.
Well, they have strapping around it. I'll ask them to check into that, but
Take
it's.
a look when you drive down there.
I will.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yep.
Then they should be bigger.
Well, the intent of that wood is not really to protect the drip line of the tree as much as it's just to protect the trunk itself
Protects
of the
the trunk,
tree.
but it doesn't protect the roots, and that's my concern.
Well, the roots, as far as storing pipes, technically, if there's going to be any weight on that, they're supposed to put like a foot or two of mulch.
Yeah.
You know, the
You-
fact is that we're going to be digging.
You hope.
Well,
Yeah,
any work that we're doing in and around the trees, they're doing. I don't know if you saw any of the air excavation and root spading that they're doing out there.
yeah.
So for the sidewalk excavation, for instance, where the tree belt runs down Sumner, where we have to dig, they go ahead of time with air compressors. They blow the dirt out and they prune all the
Yeah, prune
roots,
the trees,
so
okay.
we don't just go in there
And just, yeah, okay.
because what happens is, you know, the tree's not going to die now, but it's going to die
It'll
5,
in
10
5 or
years
10
from now.
years.
You
Yeah,
know, so
that's my concern.
there's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
care that's been taken with
Yeah.
that. I'll look into what you're saying
Okay.
about the tree protection.
And I have one quick suggestion.
Yep.
Is that online you have a frequently asked question list, so you don't have to keep answering the same question over and over and over again.
Okay, I'll pass that to Billy.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion, and we will be developing more fact sheets, FAQs, things of that nature as the project moves forward. So,
I'm Allison Stonefield. I'm a neighborhood resident. I live in Cozy Corner, just a couple blocks away, and have for many years. I have two quick ones. Are we going to lose the Christmas tree at the X? That beautiful pine tree? Are we?
Yes. It's not immediate. It's we're going to leave it up as long as we can. Originally, it was set to come down with all the other tree work, and we made arrangements for that to stay until the last possible date when we actually get in there to redesign that.
Thank you.
It will be coming
Not bad.
down. It will be replaced, however. Just, you know, not going to be as big. Eventually, it will be, like Chris said. Maybe not in my lifetime, but
Secondly, I saw a very large amount of federal funding in the budget. Is that funding secure? Where is that money right now? And what if we go over budget? Do we have to go to the feds and get more?
So our contract with Balthazar's, if Billy could put that up, is I think it was 22.5 million, and the bulk of it is federal highway money. I don't know
Yeah,
offhand
I
the
saw that.
total.
Yep.
It's
Federal
secure.
money's a little in jeopardy right now.
Well, it's no. This is all guaranteed money here now. This has all been allocated. They can't take it away from us.
Where is it? What is it in our Springfield banking account?
Well, it's with MassDOT.
Okay, it's
Now
in
we ha-
Massachusetts.
Yes. Now we have contingency money built into that too. So there's allowances for overruns. Typically, things come up that we didn't anticipate. You know, and
Always, yep.
so there's 10% there. So the total funding on the project, there's $27 million available for the project. Now, if it gets beyond that, then we have to go request additional funds. This project has what's called a 110% agreement where we're funded through that amount. And if we exceed in that, Federal Highway can choose not to participate in the rest of it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Janet Burdewick, Burdewik, and I'm a neighborhood resident. And I would just like to thank everybody involved for the attention that you've paid to the trees. I know that we're all passionate about our trees here because we live in Forest Park, right? And my opinion and praise and appreciation comes not because I'm happy to see any trees come down, but because I've been trained by the city and Regreen Springfield, and I have about 60 hours of layperson training. I'm not an urban forester, but I read through the report Alan Sherman, our city forester, did several months ago on the revised proposal, which minimized the cutting down of trees and also made specific proposals for the tree species and the numbers that are going to be planted, and I am really deeply appreciative of the solid work that went into that and the consideration that went into it. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Name is Chris Toomey, Tuomey. I'm a resident of Springfield. I actually live on Sumner Avenue, so I'm going to be going through this project numerous times during the day. As I was coming in, I spoke to Billy briefly. It would be nice to be able to have the contract plans and specifications posted, or at least a link that you could link to. I have several questions that I think that could be answered if, and I know they get very technical, they get very cumbersome, but it would be able to answer some of these more technical questions. If you have a link that you could link to that from the website, that would be fabulous.
Just to interrupt you quick on that. What we're trying to do, because the file is a little big, we're trying to get that loaded onto our website.
And I think part of the problem, Chris, is the last meeting you had, you still had drawings up there that showed roundabouts. So I think some of the confusion from people, and I think I remember right at that last meeting, you said you didn't have a final set of copy yourselves of those drawings. So even if there was a link from the website that you could post it, I know it becomes huge and numerous, but for us technical people that want to go into it, and I'll step back and I have several other questions afterwards that we can get into. Maybe it's in the special provisions there and everything else too.
And just for the people, the drawing set is how many pages? 300 and something pages. So what I was trying to do is that we do get them separated into roadway plans, geometry plans, utility plans, traffic plans. So try to get that kind of split up so that when you're working on your iPad and you try to pull up a 400 megabyte file and you're paging through stuff that you have no idea
Well, I think the old
what
one,
it
even the
is.
Mass
So,
Highway had one, you could link and just view it.
yeah,
And
and
that's all you need
We're
to do.
trying to get it split up a little bit, so
I don't know if the Mass
we're trying to
Highway
work that at
has
this
that
point. Yep, thank you.
available or not, but
Hi, Jeremy Cole. I'm a long past president of the Civic Association and live on just outside the X on Meredith Street. The last name is spelled C-O-L-E. I've been coming to these meetings, obviously, for about 10 years, and I think it's great that you're finally getting going. But, you know, I'm missing something in my head, and that's a vision of what this is actually going to work like, what it's going to look like. You're talking a lot about it. You have a lot of text, and I know it kind of tags on what he just said, but you need a general plan so that anybody who approaches the X can see what it is that it will end up as, with the trees, with the walkways, with the bike paths, so we have a good sense of it. So that's one comment, and I really think you need to do that and get it out to people, because we really need a vision for what it is you're up to. Otherwise, it's just words. The other issue has to do with the bike paths. A painted bike path line is a line. You can cross it. It offers no protection for bikers. And you really do need some protection for bikers, especially going through the X. I mean, come on, guys. In this day and age, we really do need that. So if you can provide it somehow, or at least some kind of elevation, so cars won't just ignore it. Downtown, where you do have bike paths in the new downtown, I watch cars all the time driving through the bikeways. Yes, there are not a lot of bikes, but when there are going to be some accidents, and that's not going to be good. Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that. Fuss and O'Neill, when we had the 25% design public hearing, we put together what's called an illustrative plan, which is kind of the pretty plan. They are working on having a revised one, so hopefully, when? Soon. It's actually up to MassDOT when they want to make that. Okay, they've completed it. We're working with MassDOT, so hopefully in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we'll get what I call the pretty plan posted, so when everybody looks at it real quick, yeah, you'll see the green, you'll see the landscape, you'll see the road, rather than looking at the hard drawings, which will be available too, but that pretty plan will be done. And that was one of the comments, because the pretty plan that we had has changed so significantly that somebody would look at it, they didn't want them to get a wrong idea of what something was going to look like. And for some of you who were around, the original project had bike lanes in the road, so all of Sumner Avenue was going to be widened significantly, which was going to require the cut down of a lot of trees. So if we were to post that plan and people looked at it, I would probably have some gunshots through my window at work. So we want to make sure we got a new plan, so that will be posted as well.
Hello, my name is Jim Couchon, C-O-U-C-H-O-N. I'm towards the East Longmeadow line in Forest Park. My question is twofold. First of all, I want to thank the gentleman before me. I'm very visually oriented, and I was wondering if there's some way you could put together a little animation of showing how does the traffic flow through over time. Like, I'd like to see the sequencing of the lights and the traffic patterns with little tiny cars going through. I mean, for me, that would help a lot, and I think that might help a lot of folks out too in terms of to understand what is it going to look like if I'm traveling through. Especially, I do come down from the west Sumner to the east, and I do need to go down Belmont to get to the East Longmeadow line, and I don't understand yet what that's going to look like in terms of how are we going to get to East Longmeadow, Longmeadow again. Thank you for your time.
And absolutely, what the gentleman was talking about, some of the traffic simulation programs that when we work with consultants like Fuss and O'Neill, they put together these things that show green lights, show people moving, then show the yellow light, people hopefully stopping. And it kind of shows how vehicles will be traversing. So it's a conversation I have with Stephen. I just lost for a second the last item you mentioned. Oh, yeah, the Belmont Avenue, that's always been, I know I've presented it a bunch of times and it's always been confusing, and I'm hoping that the illustrative plan we do, people will be able to look at that and get a better idea of it. And one of the things on those Belmont Avenue sections, there's going to be a pretty good addition of a lot of on-street parking in those areas as well. So the businesses that were there, we wanted to make sure we were able to give them as much parking as possible. So there will be, those sections will be one way. So we'll be doing a lot of on-street angled parking to be able to maximize the amount of parking spaces there. But that's the information that I hopefully, when we post the illustrative plan, you'll be able to see a lot better.
My name is Brian McDonald. That's standard spelling. I live on Forest Park Avenue. My frustration as I try to figure out what's going on is there's no reasonable map. The best map I've seen is the front page of today's handout, which for some reason, maybe you can explain, you cover half of it with a big DOT white space. And as I look through it, I try to find the streets that are named in the project design vehicle traffic. And all I see is, aside from the three majors, is Ormond Street, and then some street that I only know is a street. So that's my serious concern about informing people about how this is going to go. And then one quick question, I don't quite understand how you're going to control southbound traffic on Belmont Avenue. You're going to force it to turn right on Oakland, but how? Are you going to control the remainder from Oakland to Sumner Avenue?
And on that, obviously, it's going to be a learning curve. So when people understand over a period of time, there's going to be a lot of signage, directional stuff at the intersection, directing people. If you were to go straight on Belmont Avenue into the X from, I'm going to say from Oakland Street area into the X, it's going to stop you right at Burlington. And if you were there, you would then have to take a left onto Burlington. And for somebody who drives through the X as much as I do, I don't want to do that because Burlington's not a great street to be doing that on, number one, and then taking a right onto Dickinson Street, depending upon time of day, can be a little bit challenging as well. So this is going to be one of those items that's going to be, as this gets developed and getting notices out and signage and getting people used to doing it is going to be anytime we change directions, getting people used to the roundabout that we just did at St. James and Tapley was a big learning curve, but now works pretty good from a traffic flow. So trying to get the residents in the drive-through, and at the same time, people working, getting the information on whether we're talking about Waze, Google Maps, anything like that. So as we move through the project and that information happens, so people who don't know where they're going will be able to follow the directions to be able to do it. But there is, Brian, there's going to be a big learning curve for a lot of people.
I'd like to figure that, but I can't find Burlington on this map.
And that's why when we get the information that's posted, one thing that I will say about map information, all of the previous phase designs and concept plans are on our website. The final one is not, but all of the previous work that has been done and any documents that have been published are on our DPW City's website. So when we post that, I will also post a link on our Facebook page to be able to get all of that information. So some of the information is a bit raw, engineering, and when we have traffic studies and planning studies, it gets a little raw. But the background will be there, and we'll be posting the pretty picture.
What's going to stop people from ignoring the signs that say turn right on Oakland? When they get up to the Citgo station, or to the Cumberland Farms rather, and to the businesses on the left side, what prevents them from going out onto Sumner Avenue?
They won't be able to, simply because in the opposite direction, it's going to be one lane. So cars coming from that opposite direction, I'm going to say basically in front of like Mojitos now, the lane's going to be realigned. So if you are driving in that direction, you're going to be stopping. If there's going to be a stop sign at that location, you're going to be stopping. Do not enter, do not enter, do not enter to be able to go through. So if somebody does go through, they're missing a lot of signage at that point. And the way that the intersection is going to kind of be aligned, because we have a little turn bump out there. So when you approach it, you're going to kind of, the road's going to kind of push you to take a left versus just sitting there straight. You will be taking a left, but the way the roadways are going to align, and again, you'll be able to see that when we get that plan posted.
Are all the crosswalks you referred to stoplight controlled?
The only one.
I mean, a passenger walk light?
And this one here, and that one. The only two that will not be, there is a crosswalk in front of Trinity Church now. That crosswalk will still be there. It will not have any signal associated with it. At the end of Cliffwood Street at Dickinson, there will be an added crosswalk there that will not have a signal associated with it. All of the others will have signals, and there will be a hawk, what we call a hawk signal at Forest Park. So for vehicles, or if you're crossing at Forest Park, as I mentioned, there will be a button. Basically, it turns it into a mini traffic signal. So if you need to cross at that point, it's not, it's not just lines across the street. It will actually be a red light. So when you push the button, it flashes yellow. Correct me if I'm wrong. It flashes red, vehicles stop. You're able to cross the street. All of the other locations in the city, in the project that are going to have crosswalks will all either be the beacons, as I've talked about, or be part of a traffic signal that has the countdown. And the one thing that I want to say about the countdown, because we get these questions all the time, as you're sitting there, you see a white that says to cross. Depending upon where you are, that length of time for the white is different. And then you see a countdown. And what that really is supposed to mean is that if you haven't gotten into the street yet, you shouldn't go. So a lot of people think, oh, it's red now, I have to go back. No, you keep going, it protects you going across. But what we did in the old days, again, being the old guy that I am, it used to say walk or don't walk, and then when it was walk and it went to don't walk, all of a sudden the light would turn and you're halfway across. So as they work in the future, you'll have a what we'll call the PED phase to be able to cross the street, and each intersection will be maybe slightly different depending upon the length of time going across the street. but you'll have a white walk and then a countdown to be able to get across the street at that time. And those are all timed based upon the length that it takes. I'm going to use the word average person, but that's not exactly. But the amount of time for a person to walk across the street to give you a bunch of time. And a lot of those are going to be anywhere between 20 and 30 seconds, depending upon where you are. And we've installed a lot of those around the city. So,
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
I yield my time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Chris Toomey again. A few more pointed questions, if I could, because I didn't have access to the special provisions. Small confession to make. I worked for a large contractor out of Connecticut for 35 years. I've been on that side of the table, so I understand some of the nuances of this. How do the special provisions that are set up for this contract address emergency repairs, weekends, during shutdown periods? Is there a time frame that the contractor is supposed to respond to? How is that addressed in the contract provisions? Do you know?
I'll let MassDOT answer most of this.
The city responds very quickly.
Right, and what we've done on this project already is we have a list of all the emergency contacts, because I can guarantee 10 o'clock at night.
5 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, 10 o'clock
Friday,
at night, a
Friday,
traffic
5 o'clock
signal all of a sudden isn't working. The police will notice it and they'll call DPW. And between the DPW and probably the contractor, depending upon what's going on out there, we make contact with them and get the items repaired. So depending upon what the issue is, it may be something the city has to address, or it's going to get turned over to the contractor. As part of the contract, when we were talking before about construction phasing and working in the road, a lot of that stuff is going to be coming to us. We will look at a traffic management plan. Where are your cones? Where are your barrels? Where are your barricades? How is traffic going to be able to get through there? Does it affect the traffic signal? Does that traffic signal need to be blinking in order to get police out there to get traffic flowing a lot better? How's that going to be managed? So a lot of that stuff's going to be with the city. But on the emergency aspect of it, and every project that we've been on, whether it's ours or the state's, something will happen. And whether it's a broken water main or, as happened a couple years ago, an explosion in a manhole, all those things happen. And we've already set up the protocol internally with us, who, name, address, phone number, email address, text, to be able to get to a contractor if something is happening, to get them out there as quickly as possible. But I would probably guarantee that the first, I'm going to use the word first responder in a different category, but it's probably going to end up being the DPW out there, simply because we're here, and being able to get information to the people at the DOT and to the contractor to be able to say, hey, we think this is a traffic signal issue, water break, something like that.
If he has a 8 hours or 24-hour period to respond to, because you know it'll happen at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. We can't wait till Monday. And because me and my family travel that every day, it'll be a mess. And then, it kind of rolls into the question, Billy, that you brought up about the hotline. Who manages that, the hotline? Is it just an answering service, or is it the Mass Highway? And what's the procedure after a call's put into the hotline? Does it go to the contractor? And does he have 8 hours or 10 hours to respond to the issue, whatever it may be, an accident or pothole or things like that?
Absolutely. So the hotline is managed by MassDOT and HNTB, our firm. The hotline phone number actually connects to my cell phone, so you will reach my cell phone. Yes. So to be candid, that is how the cell phone is set up. And to Chris's point, depending on the issue that comes up, that determines the different protocol for how we would handle and mitigate that issue.
Something you, being the hotline person, would make that determination, whether it's utility, the contractor, the city? Is that how that's going to work?
So for any emergency situation, that would be elevated to MassDOT, to the city, to emergency response immediately. So I hope that helps answer it.
It does. And then to follow up, and Chris, you know this is going to happen over a 5-6 year period, insurance claims. Somebody has a claim, they hit a pothole, tire, breakdowns, is it the first contact going to be to you, Todd, through the Mass Highway? Does it go to the city? And then,
Typically that comes to us, and we forward it to the contractor, and the contractor's insurance is what covers that.
okay. So the point of contact should be the Mass Highway for any insurance claims that
Yeah,
come along.
in general, what usually happens, and I don't have a problem with this, is getting into the 311 system at the city. And the only reason I say that is that the average person driving through who hits a pothole or there's a problem with a plate or something that happens, if it comes into the 311 system, it's going to come directly to me or to us. And depending upon what the item is, we then will direct them to MassDOT, or it might be a city claim.
And that's, the 311 is a great system,
Yeah.
Chris. What I'm trying to skirt around is the city gets it first. It may not be a city issue. It goes to Mass Highway, then it goes to insurance. It's a 6-month process, and I know I've been there and done it. So if there's a way to better that, that would be great.
And with our stuff, we have two MassDOT projects going on right now, and we had similar sort of things that go on. In some cases, it may be me and MassDOT arguing, oh, well, that's a city problem. You know, somebody trips on a sidewalk, as an example. It's like, okay, who should that claim go to, type of thing. So we'll have that discussion, and it could then be something even more important or immediate, that something happens, that we'll have that discussion. And we know if it's somebody's vehicle and they have an issue with it getting fixed and they want to make a claim, we want to make sure they get into that process as quickly as possible. So I do not have an issue with people contacting us, so I can at least do a quick review and then get it into the, one of the important things is getting it to the right person. Because if somebody here were to call MassDOT at District 2, you could get into a, you know, no disrespect to District 2, but it's like if, hey, I don't know who to call the city of Springfield, I'm going to start going through the phone book and looking at the city numbers if we didn't have a 311, and it might take you 4 changes, and then you get my voicemail, and my voicemail says I'm on vacation for 2 weeks. So I want to make sure, I never get to go on vacation for 2 weeks, but I want to make sure that when it comes into us through 311, it comes to me, it will come to my city engineer as well, and we'll get it out as quickly as possible. So if anything happens on the project, I'm not trying to dissuade you from the MassDOT process, but getting it to us will also make sure it gets to the right people. Yeah. But I don't have a problem getting in touch with us as well.
Thank you very much.
Can you get close? There will be winter shutdowns, and also depending upon the work that they are doing and where they're doing it, they may be allowed to continue. You know, if they're working off-road and they're doing some work there, as long as the weather's good, I don't have a problem with them working. And we work with contractors like that all the time, and it also depends on the severity of the winter. You know, this past winter wasn't bad up till a point. And then all of a sudden, you know, temperatures go down and, you know, being out there excavating. But what we tried, I say city, along with MassDOT, it's like, hey, if we're going to give you a winter shutdown, you know, we don't want you to come out and do 4 days worth of work and then go away. And then, hey, 3 weeks later, the weather's good. You know, you can show up for 3 days, because then it just kind of throws everything into havoc. So once probably the work is shut down, but from a city perspective, if they're working off-road and it's not a disruption and it doesn't have a problem with plowing or sanding or salting operations, we sometimes let contractors work, but there is winter shutdown.
My name is Paul Hetzel. I live in Forest Park, Hetzel. One of the theoretical reasons to do this is to improve traffic flow, no? Well, I don't know the last time you were on Dickinson Street headed towards Longmeadow between the hours of 3 and 6. The traffic is already backed up to the middle of Holy Name. So since you're going to take away the ability to come up Dickinson, all that traffic is also going to have to go, up Belmont. All that traffic is going to have to go on Dickinson, which already, as I said, between 3 and 6, you're backed up beyond Holy Name. That's point number 1. 2, is Burlington going to be one way? And if not, you can't get down there with 2 cars. Burlington? Is that going to be one way? Because you cannot now get down there with 2 cars. And the third point is, you're talking about stopping people going through the parking lot. People who want to get over to Dickinson are going to go through the parking lot right there before Flow Saigon to get over. And the last point is, if you're going to make a map, put arrows on the street so we know which way people can go. Because the picture you have right now is just the street. There's no arrow to tell you can't go this way, you can't go that way. You're going to change some, but Dickinson is going to be a nightmare.
Just making a note here for myself. As I mentioned before, on Belmont Avenue, we, and hopefully most people, are not going to continue straight to get to Burlington. They're going to turn. The other item with regard to Dickinson Street and traffic backing up on Dickinson, as I mentioned before, the traffic signal in the middle of the X is 3-phase. So when you, especially Sumner Avenue has the longest time, Dickinson, then Belmont, so you have an opportunity to back up. That signal in the future is going to be 2-phase. Sumner Avenue, Dickinson, Sumner Avenue, Dickinson. So people up and down Dickinson should be able to, once we play with the timing, I'm sure, but on Dickinson, you will have a lot more opportunity to either go straight, right, left as you approach the middle of the X than you do now, because right now you have to wait for those 2 signals, then you get your 20 seconds. I'm not sure about the timing now, but that cycle will be going a lot faster, so therefore travel up and down Dickinson should be a lot better. Thank you. Jane.
My name is Pat Triggs, last name Triggs. I'm a local neighborhood resident, and I'm here representing Concerned Citizens for Springfield, which is an advocacy group for the past 30 years for Forest Park. I would like to identify the fact that I have been working with elected officials, with state employees since 1974. It's hard to believe that we've been talking about Sumner Avenue since 1974, when our state representative, Representative Schiavelli, wanted to make Sumner Avenue 3 lanes wide in each direction. We've been advocating for not only better traffic, but for the aesthetics. And with all due respect to Chris Signoli and his identification of the need for improved lighting, I do believe that if we had an advocate for better lighting that was also historically or perhaps aesthetically more appealing, that we would have it. I do believe that, because I was part of the group that initially got the present lighting, which several people have found to be inadequate, and I understand that. But it is hard for me to believe that in the entire lighting industry in the United States, that there is no better choice for us than Cobra Lighting at the X. We have worked tirelessly to get billboards removed. We had the X Main Street project that tried to get the facades of the buildings to be in better representation of the time frame in which our neighborhood is located. And it's very frustrating for me to hear us say, well, there's nothing better than to put Cobra Lighting up so we can have better lighting. I will say that Cobra Lighting gives us excellent lighting in the winter, but in the summer, even the Cobra Lighting doesn't come through the tree canopy that we have. So I'm here to say that we're not quite through. I still have a couple of years left in me to fight this, and I intend to. But I thank you for your attention, and I thank you for the opportunity for us to speak.
Hi, my name is Karen Knight. Last name is Knight. My concern, and maybe I missed something here, so bear with me. I'm concerned about what are the traffic flow issues going to be while construction is going on? Are there going to need to be detours? And how will we navigate around the construction? And what time of day is the construction going to take place? Is this a nighttime project, or when is it going to be ongoing? I'm not sure I understand.
So our contract work hours are 7 to 3:30. 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Oh, brother.
We don't have night work planned per se, but there could be specifically when they're doing some of the water work that might involve disruptions where they're tying in a side street. And the greater disruption would be during the day for local businesses and everything, so they may do some of that at night. But there shouldn't be any extended periods of night work through the MassDOT side. I can't speak for some of the utility companies. Chris, there's been some discussion about possibly them, probably a similar situation where it's more of a convenience thing. And then just given the history of some projects I've been on, the final paving, that might be another thing that, we say, it might be better to do that at night because you're dealing with hot asphalt and you don't want cars getting all over it. So, but in the immediate future, I would say no, I don't anticipate any night work, at least in the first two years of the project.
Okay, what about, will there be detours through the construction work that's being done? Or is it up to us to figure out how to get from here to there?
No, if we do put up detours, like I said and Chris stated, it all has to be approved by the city well in advance. It'll involve, signage, bringing you around whatever's being detoured. And again, I don't anticipate much of that until we get into a lot of the side streets where there's full depth excavation. In other words, the road's going to be getting ripped out. Sumner Ave is widenings, so it's really the edge of the road that's going to be affected, and not Sumner Ave per se until we do the milling work. So,
which is later in the project.
Again, that'll be probably third year of the project. You might start seeing more of that. During the utility work, you should see at least one lane of traffic in each direction, open at all times.
Okay.
And for those of you who dealt with a lot of the construction last fall, the utility companies out there, it was a little hectic because one of the problems that ran into was gas work, electric work that were going on out there. There became a problem on the gas side. So the two entities needed to be out there at the same time. One of the problems we've run into on all construction projects are adjacency of utilities. So when they're replacing a water main and all of a sudden they find out that that water main is now a foot from a gas main, or it has been a foot from the gas main, the gas company may need to come out immediately and move that because they need to have the adjacency to be able to do the work. But back to the original part of the question, from the city's perspective, we are not going to allow Sumner Avenue to be closed. Maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning for a half hour when they need to do something. But one of the things that we are looking at with the volume of traffic there, we can't be sending people in any other side streets or down roads. Sumner Avenue is going to remain open. And one thing that has been mentioned, everybody please sign up, sign up, sign up, sign up. The question that you just asked when we did the I-91 project, all of a sudden there would be ramp closures on 91. And a business called me and extremely upset going, when the hell were we supposed to find out about this? I said, well, you would have received 10 emails over the last month about it. They didn't sign up, so they didn't know. So any of these big things that are going to happen are going to be shared. So please, please, please get into that portal to be able to get all that information so that you can get it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, my second trip up here, my name hasn't changed, nor has the spelling. But I will tell you that I've been a resident of the Forest Park neighborhood since 2011, and I love it here. So my question, since we've already kind of tipped on the idea of the illegal turning in the left-hand turn and right-hand turn on Sumner Avenue, and this is probably a law enforcement question, but since we're in the planning stages, how can we reduce or absolutely get rid of the panhandling that slows down traffic and even is a safety concern for the panhandlers who go in the middle of the street?
I'll give the answer to that. Panhandling is legal. It's legal. It is legal. Now, from a police perspective, what somebody can be taken away, arrested, is when they are causing problems with traffic, which happens. We, around the city, you've seen them in some intersections, Boston Road and Parker, and a few other locations, Bay and Roosevelt, we are putting up the no panhandling signs. We'll probably put a few up at the X in the immediate area where we know where the panhandlers are. I know exactly, in front of Caring Health and in front of the other Caring Health that's now not there, where we had a wonderful driving incident. But panhandling is not illegal, so getting these people off the street becomes more of rather than a legal thing, becomes a mental health, becomes where are we bringing these people and are they going to come right back? So what we're trying to do around the city is discourage, I'm behind people and I see somebody say, this poor person, here's $5. If you're not giving them any money, they're not going to be there. Because if they don't collect any money, they're not going to be there. And I can't say that anymore, don't give the people the money. There is, on the signs that we are putting out, a donation. There is a specific fund being set up through the United Way of the Pioneer Valley that is going to these people. So when they do get pulled off the street, there are specific funds being targeted for them. So if they are not getting money and they are in need of services, there's a fund set up for them, and especially if people donate. So if you haven't been through some of those intersections, the DPW is in the process of making over 100 of these signs to go out throughout the city that we're going to start installing again probably in another 3 weeks at a lot of major intersections throughout the city. There's going to be, I want to say there's 60 intersections that we're going to be installing these signs at. One on that I drive past every day, Bay and Roosevelt, the person doing the panhandling puts their coat over it. Got to put the coat somewhere, right? So it's like you drive up and you just see a coat there and you're like, what's going on? So, we make sure on a lot of these we're sending the police out, but one of the things I always have to say, panhandling is legal, but it is extremely bothersome for everybody driving through there. Through the construction area is something that we can address because people being in a construction area is not safe. So we can move them on, but the idea of people giving money, and I hate to say it this way, don't give them money. If you don't give them money, they won't be there on that. So.
Are there any further questions? All right, hearing none, well, thank you all so much for joining tonight. Thank you.